Hello everyone, I'm Ben with the BTC Sessions, and I'm dreading making this video. I want to start this video with a bit of a disclaimer. I'm just a regular guy that got into Bitcoin and gradually over time really became passionate about it. I do not code, so my information is coming from articles that I've read, from talking to different people in the Bitcoin industry over the course of this show, and just from my own personal experience. I am not infallible, I can be wrong, but I will do my best to represent both sides and then give my opinion at the end of what I think of the issue. The block size debate has been a long, divisive, and exhausting one, and that's part of why I was so dreading making this video. Anybody that has an opinion tends to get torn to shreds by whatever the opposing view is, and I think it's been a really toxic environment in Bitcoin lately because of that. I'm going to be posting this up on my channel actually on my birthday, so what I'm hoping is that people will be nice and I won't get absolutely decimated on my birthday. First off, let's talk about what the debate is over and the proposed solutions. This debate is over how to scale the Bitcoin network. And right now there are two main arguments that would make use of either what is called a hard fork or a soft fork. So what is a hard fork and what is a soft fork? Well, essentially a hard fork is a change in the main rules that govern Bitcoin. And the thing with Bitcoin is it relies on consensus, meaning it relies on everybody to agree upon the rules. So when you change the rules governing Bitcoin, that means anybody who does not upgrade to these new rules will be left behind. A soft fork, however, is an added rule to Bitcoin which does not change the current rules. And what this means is by adding a rule, all you're doing is allowing people to upgrade to a new version of Bitcoin while the older versions of Bitcoin still work. So that means it stays within consensus. Everybody still agrees on the old rules, but there are a couple new rules introduced. This means that a soft fork is essentially backwards compatible. So let's start with one side of the scaling debate, and this would be Bitcoin Core. So this is the current implementation of Bitcoin that is most widely used, and the proposed solution to scaling from Bitcoin Core is first to add in something called segregated witness, which is complicated on its head, but essentially what it's doing is it's fixing something called transaction malleability, which is just a small bug that's always been in Bitcoin that needs some fixing anyways. But with this small change, it would essentially double the number of transactions that would be able to be done in each block or every 10 minutes or so. But this fix also opens up the possibility of implementing something called Lightning Network, which allows for potentially exponential scaling on top of Bitcoin to a Visa or MasterCard level and beyond. Segregated witness is able to be activated through a soft fork, which would mean that anybody that didn't upgrade to segregated witness would still be able to participate in the Bitcoin network. They just wouldn't take advantage of the added features available with SegWit ready nodes. Now, on the other side of the debate, you've got Bitcoin Unlimited. And what this implementation of Bitcoin would do is essentially change the block size limit so that Bitcoin miners themselves can decide how large of blocks they would like to mine. So essentially, the number of transactions per second would be more of a dynamic, ever-changing number. As the network grows, it would hopefully grow at a reasonable rate and not too quickly to overload the limits of people's computing power. Now, this would be done through a hard fork, which means that people would all simultaneously have to upgrade in order not to be booted off the network. Now, people voiced a lot of concerns from both sides of this coin here, and so I'm going to outline some of them. So let's start with Bitcoin Core's approach of doing segregated witness followed by Lightning Network. Some people from the Bitcoin Unlimited side of things have said that the code behind segregated witness is just way too complex and way too clunky, and it's not a very elegant solution. There have also been concerns voiced that Bitcoin Core itself is too centralized, and that this group of people is trying to basically take control of Bitcoin so that only they can run Bitcoin. In particular, people from Bitcoin Unlimited have voiced a lot of concerns that a company called Blockstream has ingrained themselves into Bitcoin Core. Another concern about Core and SegWit that some people have is that it's just been too slow scaling, and people have become irritated by rising fees because there's limited space for transactions, and there's been argument that we've been losing users because Bitcoin is becoming less usable as the block size and scaling has not been fixed yet. One of the other major sticking points that people have raised about Bitcoin Core is that there has been some censorship. Not necessarily by members of Core themselves, but especially on Reddit, r/Bitcoin. That's been one of the major rallying cries, that there has been censorship of ideas of alternative scaling solutions. Now, what about concerns as far as Bitcoin Unlimited goes? A fair number of people have complained that the code behind Bitcoin Unlimited is unsafe. And some of the reasons behind this is because there have been two recent bugs that have booted many, if not all, of the Bitcoin Unlimited nodes off the network that were, patched, but it still would have been a problem had it been the main implementation. People have also said that just raising the block size is a temporary fix, and even on the higher end of getting big blocks, it's still not going to be enough, quickly enough, in order to scale to a Visa or MasterCard size transaction network, and that we need these secondary layers. Another concern is that some people think that the miners advocating for Bitcoin Unlimited, they don't want secondary networks because things like Lightning essentially would cut down on the fees they get from regular Bitcoin transactions, and so that if they can just scale on the main network, then they maintain control over those fees instead of spreading those fees out to anybody running a Lightning node. Another concern that has been just recently voiced after a patch of one of these bugs, the patch for this bug for Bitcoin Unlimited was released, but it was closed source, and Bitcoin has always been open source, so people are worried that why would you run code if you cannot audit the code? Everybody should always be able to audit the code behind Bitcoin, because otherwise, why would you trust it? Finally, the last concern that I've seen is that there has been talk of Bitcoin Unlimited attacking the opposing chain once they fork. So they would do an attack on Bitcoin Core, so that there was consensus that Bitcoin Unlimited would be the new Bitcoin. And the criticism here is the idea behind Bitcoin was that it's giving people a choice to choose what currency they'd like to use. So would this not then be coercing people into using your choice of currency? Now, this is the part of the video that I didn't want to make, but I think I should, so that people know my opinion and then they can form their own. I will say, at first, I was very agnostic about block size increases. Things like Bitcoin Classic and Bitcoin XT, if they would have gotten approval, I would have been fine with it, but I also would have been fine continuing on Core's roadmap. As of late, I have been starting to heavily lean towards Core and segregated witness. And before I get absolutely roasted by those of you that do support Bitcoin Unlimited, I will tell you why. So whenever I look at something, especially something like Bitcoin, I look at it the way that I look at science. And so I tend to look at the information that has had the most number of eyes on it and the most peer review. And so when I look at the number of developers working on Bitcoin Core, which is somewhere in the realm of around 100, and I look at the number of developers working on Bitcoin Unlimited, which I believe is somewhere around 8 to 10, I look at that and I say, well, there's the most number of eyeballs on this code, and it has been thoroughly audited and reviewed, and it's put out in a way that is very precautionary and very careful. Whereas when I look at Bitcoin Unlimited, there have already been two major bugs that have booted some, if not all, of the nodes off the network. The reason that Bitcoin is so solid right now is because the code has been so thoroughly audited, and because things are so thoroughly tested before they go up. And I'm not saying that Bitcoin Unlimited couldn't work, but to throw it up there so quickly, I feel like would be very dangerous. If this was the early days of Bitcoin and we were just getting started and there weren't that many users yet, then I don't think it would be a problem to just throw up a new implementation and try things out. But with, between 15 and $20 billion on the line, and a lot of businesses starting to build with Bitcoin in mind, I think that major bugs like this popping up in the main implementation of Bitcoin could set us back years. Another thing that has recently concerned me about Bitcoin Unlimited was their recent patch to one of these bugs. And I mentioned it earlier in the video, but this patch was released and it was closed source. And I think that's a slippery slope to go down. Bitcoin has always been open source, and the reason for that is because if you're trusting this new system to hold value for you, anybody should be able to audit that code and know what it is doing. And as soon as you have a closed source project, that is not the case. How can you trust it if you don't know what the code itself is doing? I also have a big issue with the idea of attacking the minority chain, and this goes for both sides, but I am directing this a little bit at Bitcoin Unlimited because I've read a few things outlining plans to attack the minority chain so that everybody is essentially forced to be on Bitcoin Unlimited should they get enough hashing power. And the problem with that, as I said in the video before, is Bitcoin, the very idea behind it was having the choice to look at your local currency or your fiat currency and say, I don't want this, I want this instead. That was the whole idea behind Bitcoin. You had the choice to opt out. And so by attacking a minority chain of people that are opting out of your new implementation, you are saying, no, you're not allowed to do that. You have to come with us. And I think that it flies in the face of everything that Bitcoin stands for. Finally, I want to outline one of the reasons why I would really like to see Lightning Network active, and that is because it once again incentivizes people to run nodes. When you have a decentralized network, the more nodes or the more people you have running the software, the more untouchable it is. The less chance that it can be co-opted by a malicious party. And we've been losing nodes ever since the centralization of mining started. And part of the problem with that is that we have two main companies that build Bitcoin mining rigs. So that is a big issue. We need more competition there. But right now, a big part of this push for Bitcoin Unlimited is by miners that have come up and said that they are worried about losing transaction fees to people running Lightning nodes. I think that argument is not entirely valid because those same miners could just run Lightning nodes and recoup a lot of those transaction fees. But what I do like is that it lowers this barrier to entry so that while miners could run Lightning nodes and be paid, I could run a Lightning node and I could be paid for transaction fees, obviously on a smaller scale, but it incentivizes me because in order to run a Lightning node, you'd have to run a full node for Bitcoin. So this incentivizes me to run a Bitcoin node, which I have not done. I think that once you incentivize people to run nodes, it strengthens the network, and that's what I'm excited about. I would love to see that happen. I do want to finish by saying I don't think that everybody on the other side of the debate, from where my stance lies, is malicious. I think that there are some people, actually a fair number of people on both sides, that are just divisive and toxic, and I don't think it helps at all by calling people out and saying that they are purposely trying to destroy Bitcoin, because I don't think that's the case. In most cases, we're a community. We all got into this because we're sick of shit from banks. We were sick of being told what we can do with our money. We're sick of seeing how banks get a free pass to do whatever the hell they want. And I think people should realize that we're still united in that view. That hasn't changed. And it sucks to see the community so divided over scaling while the banks laugh, well, all the way to the bank. So what I'm hoping is that over time we'll be able to come together on something and work together as a cohesive unit again. Honestly, this is a really complex issue, and it's nearly impossible to get all of my thoughts in here, and let alone cover them in a single video. It's really tough to cover, and I know that a lot of things being said can be divisive on either side. But I'm doing my best, and hopefully this information is at least in part useful to people on both sides of the debate, and hopefully there can be some constructive conversation in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to hit like and subscribe, drop a tip if you're able to, and share this video. I'll see you guys next time on the BTC Sessions. I'm afraid of wasting this day.